So I want to thank everybody for participating in this session, allowing us an opportunity as community members and as community organizations to share with you some of the services that are available to the community and our effort to assist as well as to promote the healing of Baltimore City. As everyone on this session will attest to, there is no way that we individually can solve all the problems that are happening in our country, in our state, and in our city. But together, we're able to make a difference. As I mentioned, I'm with the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center, and it is a statewide organization that provides legal services, counseling services, as well as court accompaniment, and we help individuals find out what other services are available in the state to assist them. So any victim of crime can contact the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center, and we'll be able to help you figure out where you need to go, how we can get you the services that you need. It may be that we need to help you get in contact with someone that can help you with food or housing, or get in contact with someone that can provide some counseling for you. Some of the members on this organizations are part of what we call the Baltimore City Victim Services Network or Committee. We are, and that organization is a compilation or a collaboration of organizations in Baltimore City that say, these are the problems that we've seen in our portion of the world that we deal with. We are able to help each other identify what the problems are and also identify some solutions that we may not have thought about. As an attorney, I travel around the state of Maryland and represent victims in various counties. And I found that there may be a problem in Anne Arundel County and the same problem in Baltimore City. And Anne Arundel may have solved the problem. Baltimore City didn't talk to Anne Arundel and doesn't realize that that problem has been solved and this is how they've done it. Similarly, there may be someone in Baltimore City or an attorney or organization in Baltimore City that has already resolved problems that every other county is trying to get through, and they haven't had an opportunity to speak to each other to figure out how to get it done. We are dedicated to making certain that we talk to each other, recognize that we're all trying to do the best that we can and to help our community members, and then try to find a solution. One of the things that I want to highlight for my organization in particular, and again, the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center, is that there are rights that a victim of crime has the benefit of receiving under the Maryland State Constitution. Those rights include, this is not intended to be a list of everything that's out there, but they include your right to be informed by your police officers and the investigating units what's happening with your case. You should not have to call and call and call again, only to be put on hold and never hear back from an officer in a crime that you've been involved in and that you're a victim of. There is an obligation of the state's attorney's office, there's an obligation of your police department and police officers to make sure that you're informed. You have a right to be present at the hearings, to know, hey, they're going to look at this individual that burglarized me or that killed a loved one, and they're going to determine whether they're going to release them early or not, or remove them or give them house arrest. You have a right to not only be present, not only to be notified, but you have a right to even speak at that hearing and tell the judge, this is more than just a car burglary. This is more than just another statistical homicide. This is what this individual meant to me, and this defendant has made a major impact in my life in a very negative way. So let's treat them not as a statistic, but treat them for the impact that they've had. These are just some of the rights that you have. And unfortunately, they're not always identified and we're not always aware of them. The way the law was written, you as a victim have to ask for these services. You have to ask to be allowed to speak at a hearing. You have to ask to be allowed to be notified. But if you don't know that you have those rights, how can you ask for them? So there are a few organizations that I've asked to be part of this panel. I'm going to introduce them in a moment, and they're going to further introduce themselves. But they're the organizations that you reach out to and ask, let them know what your concerns are. They are aware of the laws. They are also skilled enough to know how to work within the legal system and within the services community that we have, and are able to help you identify what needs to be done and what services we can provide for you. I must say that there are funding problems. There's not enough money to go around to solve all the problems that we have, there are limits to our ability to solve every problem. Let's put it that way. We can't solve every problem, but working together, we're able to take a bite out of that problem and lessen the burden that is on you. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the members on the panel. I'm going to start first with Pam Stein, who is, and actually I'm going to go through all of the members and then each of them will come up and speak. Pam Stein, who's with the Family Survivors Network, that's right there in Baltimore City. We have Ariana Sessoms, who's with the Maryland Coalition Against Sexual Assault. Wave, Ariana. All right. And then I don't have her on my screen, but she must be over to the side. We have Amy Greensfelder, who is the executive director for the Pro Bono Counseling Project, which is an organization that assists with finding counselors and social workers to help you at a pro bono level or at a lower price. And with that, Pam, I'm gonna let you go ahead and introduce yourself and let's get it started. Thank you.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm honored to be here today. And Alonzo, I found your talk to be really inspiring because even as a provider, I sometimes just get worn down and settle for what's given to us. And I just got re-inspired by your talk. So thank you. I am a co-founder and co-director of Family Survivor Network, and we are located in Sandtown, Winchester. We provide support services for families that lost a loved one to violence. We purposely are located right in the central part of Sandtown so that we have an opportunity to for the families, for the community and neighborhood to get to know us, because we know there are so many barriers for people to get services. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible by being right there. We used to be 5 blocks away from where we are in Sandtown, and that small move to be more central in Sandtown, which is we're right around the corner from Gilmore Homes. We're on a corridor where it's one of the highest rates of fatal and non-fatal shootings. Alonzo invited me because we are a very grassroots organization. We're very small, but we're very mighty. There are 4 of us, and we just have grants right now through the state for part-time work, but all of us are pretty committed and work beyond that. It's me, it's my executive director, Dorian Walker, who was at the state's attorney's office for a number of years. We have a survivor, Tynette Robinson, who is really the face of our organization. She lost her son in the neighborhood, has known the generations of family that live there, and really just we move in the direction that she shows us, which is really community building. We do a lot of things where we're just sitting outside. It's sort of like stoop outreach. There's so much foot traffic that goes by us. So like yesterday when there was a shooting, it was 5 doors away from us. We're able to be there right away. We're able to outreach the community, outreach to families. We attend vigils. Oftentimes that's when there's a shooting that happens, we have a huge network of survivors. They're able to reach out, let us know. We attend vigils. We offer guidance in terms of funeral arrangements. And then we work with the families afterwards. Our model of care is very different. We really look at science and how trauma affects the brain. Our model of care is infused with a lot of expressive arts. We use a lot of art. We do a lot of community building with art, where we've built a memorial wall. We've done a couple of those. We use drumming. We have an apothecary, which is plant and herb medicine, where it's for the community. People can stop in at any time to make bath salts, essential oils, have plant medicine. We really look at the healing process as being open and ancestral, and it's just open-ended. And we really are just try to listen to the needs of the community, and just work, just boots on the ground. We do a lot of things out and around the community, and we also have partnerships. So that people that are seeing folks in addiction, and they see that they haven't attended to the grief, the loss of their loved one, they can make very quick and easy referrals to us, so that we can partner and work together in the healing of that particular person and family. We're just getting,
That's
we're
great.
getting ready to start a youth program and start seeing the youth of the family.
I want you to come back to the question a little bit later on the moving and making sure that you're in the community. That was one of the things that was so inspiring about your activities, and even the move from one block to another. But let's go on and then let Ms. Ariana Sessoms have a discussion. Introduce your organization, please.
Great, thank you so much, Alonzo. Can you all hear me okay? All right, perfect. So my name is Ariana Sessoms. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the training and outreach specialist at the Maryland Coalition Against Sexual Assault. Super happy to join you all today and to get to talk a little bit more about what we do at MCASA. So MCASA is the Sexual Assault Coalition for the state of Maryland. Every state, as far as I know, has a sexual assault coalition. And so we are the coalition for Maryland. We represent 17 of Maryland's rape crisis centers, meaning we work with professionals from across the state who work directly with sexual assault survivors. And we lobby for laws and policies that support survivors and the providers who work with them. So our mission is to prevent sexual assault, advocate for accessible and compassionate care for sexual violence and survivors, and hold offenders accountable. And our vision is to make Maryland a state free of sexual violence. And so to provide a little bit of context for those who might not know, sexual violence is committed against people of all identities, all ages, genders, races, religions, sexual orientations, abilities, class backgrounds, and all life experiences. But we do know that a lot of forms of violence, sexual violence is kind of an umbrella term, thinking about any non-consensual act, so sexual harassment, online exploitation, child sexual abuse, human trafficking, and relationship abuse, and everything in between. So we know many of these forms of violence disproportionately affect Black and Brown people, LGBTQ people, people with disabilities, people of low income and low wage workers, and incarcerated individuals, and people of all of these intersections. So we support all survivors, and we do that in a few different ways. And so I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the ways. We advocate for state legislation that impacts survivors everything from policies that impact college student survivors and that affect people who are supported by PREA, which is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. So people at all of the margins. We collaborate with community organizations, which is why I'm super happy to be here today. We do outreach with the community to help make our services accessible to all survivors. We provide education, training, and technical assistance to professionals who work with survivors, which is specifically what I do. And that includes nurses, advocates, law enforcement, military professionals, university staff. We have education for all of these individuals, focusing on prevention, intervention, trauma-informed and trauma-centered care, and anti-oppression work. We are also part of the movement to test sexual assault evidence kits, which are commonly known as rape kits. But our Sexual Assault Kit Initiative, or SAKI, is an effort to get so many of these kits tested for forensic testing that may have been sitting in backlog. And then lastly, but also super importantly, we have our Sexual Assault Legal Institute, or SALI, which provides direct legal services to victims of sexual violence. So we have comprehensive statewide legal services, such as peace and protective orders, safety planning, financial stability, and UNT visas. And just to give you a little bit of idea, in 2020, SALI served 28% of their victims who were ages 0 to 17. Like I said, we work with all ages. And about 70% of those that we served were between the ages of 18 to 59, and 2% were ages 60 and above, so all across the age span. If you want to learn more about us, you can find us on mcasa.org. We have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I also cannot let this go by without saying that since we are talking specifically about Baltimore, I want to mention Turnaround. Turnaround is the Rape Crisis Center in Baltimore. They provide counseling, support services to victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, and sex trafficking. So their services include group and individual therapy, legal advocacy, shelter referrals, assistance with reporting to police or other authorities, assistance with healing and developing skills for your well-being, case management, hospital accompaniment, and employment readiness. And they're still doing a lot of services as we are throughout the pandemic, whether that be in-person or virtual services. They also provide education to the community and help folks who know someone who is a survivor and want to be able to best support them. They also have a 24-hour hotline. Their website is Turnaround Inc., so turnaroundinc.org. And they also have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. A lot of their events and things are posted on social media, so I definitely recommend following them. But their hotline number is 443-279-0379, and that is on their website as well. So please check out Turnaround. They do amazing work. I also want to shout out the DOVE program, which is part of Northwest Hospital, and they focus on helping domestic violence survivors in Baltimore County. So let's Turnaround and the DOVE program. And also recognizing that February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. So if you or anyone you know is in a relationship where they're experiencing any physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, there are help and resources available throughout the state and throughout the city and the county. So please seek out if you need those resources. So thank you.
No, thank you. I've got to get to the way where I can say what our organizations do in the concise manner in which you do it. And thank you very much. But I also want to point out, and I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but each of the organizations here are highlighting the fact that they work with other organizations. And it goes directly to the point that we cannot do this alone. And I just commend you and I thank you for taking the time to point out those other organizations that we are participating in and that we work with. Not only the 4 that are here, but there are even others that with the Baltimore City group, we have about 45 organizations that we partner with. And I'd like to come back a little bit more, Ariana, to talk about the statewide and the national program that you have. But before we do that, now we have Amy Greensfelder with the Pro Bono Counseling Project. Amy?
Thank you, Alonso, and thank you for inviting us to join in with your presentation today. I really appreciate that you used the platform you had to share about all the victim services programs. And I also want to mention, Ariana, thank you so much for mentioning Turnaround. We do a lot of work closely with Turnaround, so thank you for highlighting their work as well. My name's Amy Greensfelder. My pronouns are she, her. I am a social worker, and I'm also the executive director at the Pro Bono Counseling Project. We provide free mental health counseling, and we do that through a network of over 800 licensed mental health providers. So I'll drop some things in the chat for you. One is our phone number, which is how you call to access our counseling services. And so you just call, and I'm also going to put our website there as well. So now you have the website and the telephone number. When somebody is interested in mental health counseling and is having difficulty accessing it, they can call our office. They participate in a short interview with our staff. And in that interview, what we're trying to do is find out why you're seeking counseling, what you're looking to get out of counseling, what you might be looking for in a counselor, so we can match you with the best possible resource, whether that is one of our volunteer counselors or another resource in the community. Sometimes people do call with needs that might be outside the scope of mental health counseling, but usually the things that we can address, that we could provide you with access to a free mental health counselor for, are things like depression, anxiety, grief, trauma, stress, life transitions. We do family counseling, couples counseling. We work with children, teens, adults, older adults across the spectrum. And in that interview, when we're talking with you on the phone to find you the right counselor, we consider things like if you want to meet with a counselor who shares your cultural background, your race, your gender, your ethnicity, maybe a particular style of therapy, if there's particular work you want to do through therapy, we want to find out that information so that we can get you the best possible counselor for you. As I mentioned, we do serve all ages. If you're at least 16, you can sign yourself into therapy. You can consent to your own care without having a parent or guardian consent. If you or people you're working with are under 16, we would need consent from the parent or guardian. But I do like to make sure to mention that because I do know Healing City does have a youth focus. And so sometimes young people might be nervous to seek care and not sure if, parents are going to find out or need to know, et cetera. So if you're at least 16 in Maryland, you can consent for mental health counseling on your own. We do have bilingual therapists, and we're able to provide interpretation both for that initial phone interview to connect with our program as well as for the ongoing counseling. So we are able to provide language access services. We're on social media, same like Ariana mentioned about their social media. We're on Facebook and we are on Instagram. Please do like and share. And the other program that I want to mention today too is our newest program, which is a mental health warm line. It's available Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. And you can access that by dialing 443-608-9185 or 211. It is a partnership with the United Way of Central Maryland. And through that warm line, you can call during those hours and just talk to a licensed clinical social worker who's there available. If you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious about something, she is there for you and can just have an immediate conversation so you can get right on your journey to healing right away. So that's a resource available to you. And Liz is on the call right now. Liz Stoner, I see her little box on our Zoom screen, and she's doing a Q&A later today during the lunch hour. She's going to be in the resource fair, so do make sure to check out the resource fair to talk with her and the other providers who are at that resource fair. And I did want to again highlight all of the resources we provide are completely free. It's free mental health counseling. And as one of our therapists said recently, it's not on the quality of free, it's just free. So sometimes free comes with its own stigma around it, but it's all licensed mental health providers who are providing the same level of care as they would if it were full price. So thank you all, and happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Amy. Now, I want to point out, first of all, a lesson that I learned from working with our group is, and that's something I forgot to do, my pronouns are he, him, and his. Make sure I got that, Ariana. Got it. So because Amy went last, Amy, I'm going to put you on first with a question that I have, and then what we'll do is, well, first of all, I'll check and see if any members had any questions from the chat group. Anything that we need to address?
No, sir, I don't see anything in the chat.
Okay, good. All right. So I want to point out that everyone has, all the members have placed their contact information inside the chat group. So please take a look at that. I sent a couple of chats, but they went directly to an individual. So now I've got it going to everybody. The technical skills are getting better. But so the first question I have for Amy is, what is a warm line? I've started seeing that being identified. So, but what is that exactly?
Yeah, thank you for asking for clarification on that. So usually you think of a hotline. Ariana mentioned a few hotline programs, and those are the ones that are available 24/7. You pick up the phone and you get somebody right away. So you could call at midnight, you could call at 2 in the morning, and somebody is going to answer that call. This is a brand new program that's sort of being piloted right now, so we didn't have the resources right away to set up a 24/7. So warm line means somebody will talk to you. Liz is generally available during that 10 to 6. It's just a single staff person, so if she's on the phone with somebody else, it will go to voicemail and she'll call you back during that day, during that time frame. And if you call after hours, it would be leave a voicemail and call back. So warm line is to imply that it's not a service like a 911, like a crisis number that you call and right away somebody's going to pick up. So that's our way of communicating that, hey, we're here for you, we're warm people, but we are only one person that's available during certain set hours versus 24/7. So thank you
Thank you very much for that. And I know that one of the presenters, I want to say, well, I don't remember exactly who, but identified that our organizations, even during COVID, even during the additional crisis that has inflicted us, we're able to, a lot of the nonprofit organizations and a lot of the organizations have started to use the internet, and we're using the telephone services in a better way than we've ever used it before, and more effectively are using our technology to reach out to individuals and to make our services available to them. There, as you can imagine, it's not as easy as it used to be to come in and meet with a counselor or a lawyer. And now we're having to set up in our organization, we have happen to have a large conference room. So we were able to put an individual on one side of the conference room, and then we sit on the other side. But the other way that we're doing so is to make sure that we get in contact through Zoom or through Google Meet or any of the other services that are out there. So please do not feel that you're left alone and you don't have a way of getting in contact with people, because we're making very significant efforts to achieve that level of communication for you. Ariana, I'm going backwards now. You mentioned that you're also providing counseling or services for people who are in prison, or some of the sexual assault matters that happen in prison. And right now, there's always a battle in the victims' rights arena, where we're only dealing with victims. We're not dealing with the other people who have gone into the correctional system and have been victimized as well in various levels. And of course, that's a major issue within the various counties. But how are you able to work those two together?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And I can definitely put people in touch with Sarah Marcos. She is our PREA analyst. And so she does a lot of work doing MOUs and working with correctional facilities. But one thing we're really trying to focus on is getting confidential hotlines or confidential lines into the prisons, so that advocates can meet with survivors who are incarcerated without any sort of like supervision or surveillance. And so we're able to get them the support that they need in a more confidential sense, which is a little bit difficult, but we're trying to make that happen. And so I know that's one of the big resources, as well as educating advocates and other service providers on PREA, which is the Prison Rape Elimination Act, and making sure that survivors who are incarcerated have all of the support that they need and are receiving the justice that they need. And so that is sort of the extent that I can speak to it. Again, I can definitely direct people to Sarah, who is doing a lot of our PREA work, but it is super important. And like I said, we do a lot of anti-oppression work, and that includes working with folks who are incarcerated, working with folks who are of all races and ethnicities and orientations, and everyone on the margins, people who society often doesn't talk about or think about. And we cannot do anti-violence work or anti-sexual violence work without doing anti-oppression work. So I think it's really important to also make sure we're reaching folks who other folks might not think too much about. So thank you for asking that and bringing that up.
Thank you. Let me use this opportunity and Pam, I want to start with you on it, but take that question that I just asked. As an organization that deals with victims who the family members may have been killed or been victims of crime, does your organization have an outlet or an opportunity where you deal with not only the victim, but also the incarcerated individual as part of your services?
We don't. It's something definitely that we think about, but we don't have the capacity to do that. We've really just focused on victim services at this point. But we see that like restore, a lot of the families that come in, the roles of the person that's been killed have also sometimes been somebody that's also created harm in the community. So we haven't really had we look at also like restorative justice, and we love, we really are in tune with the restorative justice practices in communities. But because of our capacity with us being so small and grassroots, we really don't have the capacity to do that other piece quite yet.
But now what you do, however, is those community vigils.
Yes.
And I've been to a couple of them and they're just fantastic. And I know you were talking about the artwork that you do and some of the things that you've done. And I know we have one of the quilts that your children did. Could you talk about, if I may, one of the things I really like is the stone artistry things. I like art, but I don't know a whole bunch about it.
Sure. So one of the things that we're doing is February 25th, we're doing a showing of a documentary that has documents just this community art project. So a year ago, in Tynette, who is the survivor that now works with us, she started out receiving services from us 2 years ago when her son was murdered in West Baltimore. And a year after her like coming to retreats, coming in for support groups, having individual sessions, I started seeing her. She was going to a lot of funerals, referring people to us, and she knows the families that have lost a loved one to gun violence. And one day she said, all what we want are our son and daughter's names public so people don't forget. And Family Survivor said, if you bring out the families, and these families are families that were very traumatized, and we know with trauma, people's lives, they get isolated. They were all behind closed doors. We were like, if you can bring out the families, we'll do a community memorial, and we'll do a big art mural that the community creates. They design it. And then it's an opportunity for us to do outreach and for people to get to know us. And it was all filmed. And then all the families had an opportunity if they wanted to be interviewed. And it's called Too Many Names. And I'm going to be giving the information to Alonzo as well when we're going to do a community viewing of it, and everybody can attend and see it. So the opportunity is that families came together. They all came out and created mosaic pieces in the name of their son. We had a local artist make tiles with their names on it. So the family members were able to, and when you were there, we had music playing, people were laughing and smiling. They were so excited. And we did this for a few weekends, and then we had an unveiling. And at the unveiling, when their whole art piece memorial, Tree of Life, they call it, that's what they named it, was up, they were able then to take their son and daughter's name and put it on the wall. And we have a sign there that says, this is the Tree of Life Memorial. Most of the men were actually killed in this 3-block area of Sandtown, but it's open for anybody. And we have our name and we have our contact information. And we said, if you lost a daughter, family member, friend, contact us if you want their name on the wall. And it has been an ongoing outreach where people will call us and say, we want our name, we want our cousin's name on the wall. He was killed 6 years ago. And then it gives us an opportunity to get to know them. They can come in, they make a piece, they put it on the wall, and then they can put their loved one's name on the wall. And a lot of people can't go to the gravesite. They don't have transportation. So when people say that they then go to the wall and they can visit their loved one there.
Great, thank you very much for that. You reminded me of something that my people of my colleagues will get on me about, and that is the Maryland Crime Victim Resource Center also does, and the State Board of Victim Services for the state of Maryland also does a memorial service every year for victims of crime, victims of homicide, particularly in Prince George's County. The courthouse has allocated some space in which victims of a homicide are able to get bricks and place them on the pathway going in. It's called the Garden of Remembrance, called the Garden of Remembrance. And each of the names of the victims can be placed there as a way of just memorializing that our family members, our loved ones are not forgotten, even though they have been killed or they've been lost. And we try to be very clear that they've been murdered. So that is something that you want to keep an eye out for. There are organizations and there are opportunities for you to not only meet for yourself, but to memorialize those loved ones that you have. And I'll open up the floor to anyone else if their organization does something similar or has an annual program that they use to identify the victims of crime. And anyone that is interested can answer at this particular moment. Or not. Okay. All right. So then I had a different question, and that was, how do your organizations reach out to the youth in the community to help them to know that your resources are there, provide services to them, and the like? And anyone can raise your hand and go ahead and go forth.
I could just jump into that, Alonso. And for us, often there's three main ways that people find out about our services. The number one way that people find out about us is through our website and our social media. So just keeping those updated and up to date so that people can find us easily if they're searching for free and low cost mental health counseling in the community. But the second most common way that people find us is somebody else saying to them, a social worker, another service provider, hey, have you thought about counseling? Pro bono counseling is a way to get free counseling if you aren't able to afford it. And so we focus a lot of our outreach efforts on making sure that folks who have contact with people in need of counseling know about our services. So we do presentations to school groups, to community groups. So if anybody listening is part of an organization that, or a community group or in your school group, whatever you're connected to, church group, synagogue, mosque, whatever kind of group you're connected to, we are more than happy to come out and do a presentation on identifying signs and symptoms that somebody might have a mental health concern. We do presentations on suicide prevention. and just present overviews of our services so that folks know the services are available, because we find that often those are the best ways to get the word out, by sharing how people can identify somebody in need of mental health counseling, and then how to have those conversations. It can be tough to talk to a loved one, somebody that you care about. Hey, I'm concerned about you. I think that counseling might be something that you'd benefit from. And so we help do some trainings around how to have those conversations, and those have been, we've found those helpful in reaching out to young people of all ages, but young people in particular. So
Thank you. Ariana, anything you want to add?
Yeah, so in terms of reaching out to the community, I started working at MCASA about 2 weeks after all of the staff went virtual because of the pandemic. So I have not gotten to, unfortunately, do a lot of in-person getting to know folks and reaching out to folks, but we have gotten really close, especially being able to be virtual and do a lot of meetings and things with our advocates across the state in ways that we wouldn't have been able to do in person. So we've really gotten to connect with a lot of advocates. So we are really here to support them in a lot of their community outreach. Of course, we also do social media. We also try and promote our services as much as possible, but we really want to help the 17 rape crisis centers throughout the state in doing a lot of outreach to their communities. So again, we support Turnaround, Dove Program, and lots of other organizations throughout the state, and making sure that they're able to use us for technical assistance and support, and then reach out to the community that they know best because they're in those locations. And so we are always here to help. We're of course here to help survivors in any way that they need, and doing legal services and things like that. And so we try and promote via social media, our website, also doing flyers and things. We've tried to do that throughout this year, and putting them up in places where people might still be accessing, like grocery stores and things like that. So it is a little bit harder during the pandemic, but we are still making sure that folks know we're available, and definitely making sure that local rape crisis centers have everything that they need to make sure that the community knows about them, because they know their community best. And so we want to make sure that they can support them directly.
Well, our time has fleetingly left us. It's already the 11 o'clock hour. And while we could continue on and on, I want to make sure that people have the opportunity to attend other sessions if they so desire. I did not forget about you, Pam. I know that, but I'm going to take it the fact that you're right in the community is one of the ways that you keep connected to the youth and to the adults. I want to take this moment, though, as we close, to thank everyone that participated. I thank my panelists for making this presentation a fantastic presentation. People may not know that Zeke Cohen is council member in Baltimore City that facilitated getting this program up and running, and has been working. I think I've been working on this for maybe 3 months, and they were working on it before that. To make sure that this goes on, and it's going on for another two more days. Please look into the Hoover Conference of the Healing City, Baltimore, and look at the other services that are out there. I know there are going to be a number of youth who are going to be presenting things like spoken word. They're going to be talking about how they handle stress, and providing, there's a couple of organizations that are going to be talking about different ways that we can handle stress. And I'm gonna close on a sobering note, and this is for those of us who do this work. We want to kind of remember Dante Boxdale, who was also in the community, reaching out in Baltimore to provide services through Safe Streets. And he was murdered recently, end of January. This is this work can be very stressful, not only for the victims that we work with, but the service providers themselves. And it's very important. I'm gonna wear my Amy Greensfelder hat. It's very important that our social workers, our counselors, our service providers also reach out and make sure that they're getting the service and the counseling that they need in order to be able to serve those in our community. I want to thank everybody for being here. And with that, I'm going to say have a wonderful day, and continue on with the work that you do in the community.